The great hall of Nexus Prime stretched out like a metal ocean. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy filled the curved seats that rose in perfect circles toward a domed ceiling made of pure crystal. Each seat held a different form of life, some with too many eyes, others with scales that changed color, and a few that looked like walking trees with silver bark. Ambassador Teho walked down the center aisle with steady steps. His black suit looked simple compared to the flowing robes and metal armor worn by the alien delegates around him. Behind him, Jinwoo followed in his military uniform, his hand resting near his weapon out of habit. Both men kept their faces calm, but their eyes took in everything. The Supreme Chancellor sat on a throne made of living crystal that pulsed with soft blue light. The being inside looked like a mountain of clear stone with points of bright energy where a human might have eyes. When it spoke, the voice came from everywhere at once, translated into every language known to the galaxy. "Ambassador Teho of the Terran Federation," the Chancellor said. The words echoed through the vast chamber. "You stand before the assembled representatives of 47 civilized worlds. For 3 full cycles, we have debated the matter of humanity's place in our galactic community." Teho stopped at the center of the floor. A spotlight bathed him in white light while cameras from a dozen different alien news networks focused on him. He knew that billions of beings across the galaxy were watching this moment. "We have been patient," the Chancellor continued. "We have offered your species the chance to join our great alliance. We have shown you the benefits of galactic unity, trade routes that span 1,000 star systems, scientific knowledge gathered over millions of years, peace that has lasted for 10,000 cycles." In the gallery above, alien delegates whispered to each other in languages that sounded like music, grinding stone, or electronic beeps. Some looked at the human with curiosity, others with barely hidden disgust. A few seemed afraid. "Yet you continue to refuse our generous offer," the Chancellor said. Its crystal form grew brighter. "Your ships ignore our shipping lanes. Your colonies expand without our permission. Your government rejects our laws. This cannot continue." Teho remained silent. He had heard this speech before in smaller rooms with fewer witnesses. Nothing had changed except the size of the audience. "We are not unreasonable beings," the Chancellor went on. "We understand that young species often struggle with the concept of galactic citizenship. Some require time to see the wisdom of unity. Others need gentle guidance to understand their proper place." A delegate with 6 arms and purple skin leaned forward in his seat. "The humans are stubborn children," he called out in a voice like grinding metal. "Perhaps they need to learn respect the hard way." Murmurs of agreement rippled through parts of the assembly. Other delegates remained quiet, but their body language spoke volumes. Some alien species shifted in their seats. Others made gestures that universal translators could not interpret, but clearly meant disagreement. The Chancellor raised one crystal appendage, and silence fell over the hall like a heavy blanket. "We will not resort to crude threats," it said. "We are civilized beings. We solve problems through discussion and compromise." Jinwoo watched the alien faces around them. His military training helped him read body language across species barriers. Many of the delegates looked uncomfortable. A few seemed angry, but most looked bored, as if they had sat through this same debate many times before with other species. "However," the Chancellor continued, and its voice took on a harder edge, "patience has limits. Even our vast understanding cannot excuse indefinite defiance of galactic law." The crystal being rose from its throne. As it stood, the chamber grew darker except for the pulsing light within its body. "Therefore I speak now not just as Chancellor, but as the voice of 47 united worlds, as the representative of a civilization that spans the galaxy, as the guardian of peace that has lasted longer than your species has existed." Teho felt the weight of countless alien eyes upon him. The temperature in the hall seemed to drop several degrees. Even the air recyclers grew quiet as if the station itself was holding its breath. "Humanity will submit to galactic authority," the Chancellor declared. "You will accept membership in our council under the terms we have offered. You will follow our laws. You will contribute to our community. You will take your proper place among the civilized species of the galaxy. The Chancellor paused, letting the words sink in. You have 10 rotations to make this decision. That is approximately 14 of your Earth days. After that time, continued defiance will be considered an act of aggression against the galactic community. Jinwoo's hand tightened slightly on his weapon. Around the hall, alien security forces in gleaming armor stepped forward just enough to be visible. The message was clear, without being spoken. The choice is yours, Ambassador Taeho, the Chancellor said. Accept our generous offer of membership, or face the consequences of standing alone against the combined might of the galaxy. The hall fell completely silent. Thousands of alien beings waited for the human response. News cameras focused on Taeho's face. Transmission arrays prepared to carry his words to every corner of known space. Tae-Ho looked up at the Chancellor. Then he looked around at the assembled delegates. He saw species that had ruled star systems when humans were still learning to make fire. He saw beings whose technology could crack planets or rearrange solar systems. He saw the representatives of civilizations that commanded fleets larger than Earth's entire population. Then Taeho did something that had never happened in the 10,000-year history of the Galactic Council. He laughed. It started as a small chuckle, but it grew. Soon Taeho was laughing so hard that tears ran down his cheeks. The sound echoed through the hall's perfect acoustics and emerged from every universal translator in the chamber. 47 different alien languages tried to convey the concept of human laughter, creating a symphony of electronic beeps, musical tones, and mechanical grinding sounds. The Chancellor's crystal form flickered with confusion. Around the hall, alien delegates looked at each other with expressions that needed no translation. They had never seen this response before. You find our offer amusing? The Chancellor asked. Its voice carried a dangerous edge. Tae-Ho wiped his eyes and smiled up at the crystal throne. Oh, I'm sorry, he said. It's just that you really believe this will work, don't you? You think we're like all the others. Explain yourself, the Chancellor demanded. You've done this before, Taeho said, his voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. How many times? How many species have stood in this spot and listened to this same speech? How many have folded when faced with your ultimatum? Jinwoo watched the alien delegates carefully. Some looked confused, others seemed insulted, but a few looked worried, as if the human had touched on something they preferred not to think about. Every species eventually sees reason, the Chancellor said. Civilization requires order. Order requires unity. Unity requires submission to proper authority. And if they don't see reason? Taeho asked. They learn to see it, the Chancellor replied coldly. Tae-Ho nodded slowly. That's what I thought. He straightened his shoulders and looked directly up at the crystal being. Well, I have an answer for you. The hall grew so quiet that the hum of the space station's engines could be heard through the walls. Every camera focused on the human ambassador. Every transmission array prepared to carry his words across the galaxy. We reject your ultimatum, Taeho said clearly. We reject your authority. We reject your laws. We reject your whole system. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Some delegates leaped to their feet. Others began shouting in languages that made no attempt at translation. The Chancellor's crystal form blazed with angry light. You cannot reject the galactic community, the Chancellor roared. No species stands alone. Watch us, Taeho said simply. You are one small world against 47 star-spanning civilizations. The Chancellor continued. Your population is barely 8 billion. Our combined forces number in the trillions. And, Taeho asked, you will be destroyed. Taeho shrugged. Maybe, but we'll be free while it happens. Jinwoo almost smiled at that. It was such a perfectly human response. Most species would calculate odds, consider alternatives, negotiate terms. Humans just said no and prepared to fight. This is madness, shouted the six-armed delegate. They are too primitive to understand what they face. Perhaps, Tejo agreed. But we understand freedom. We understand what it means to choose our own path. And we choose not to kneel. The Chancellor's light pulsed rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation in its species. You doom your entire world with this foolishness. Our world, our choice, Tejo said. Humanity has decided. We will forge our own path among the stars. We will trade with those who wish to trade as equals. We will explore where we choose to explore. We will live free or die trying. The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted in dozens of languages. Some alien security forces moved toward the center of the floor. Others held back, unsure of their orders. News cameras swung wildly as their operators tried to capture every angle of the unprecedented scene. Through it all, Tejo stood calmly in the center of the storm. Jinwoo moved, closer to his ambassador, ready for whatever came next. 3 levels below the main assembly hall of Nexus Prime, in a room that officially did not exist, panic was spreading like wildfire. Kyung-min had worked as a low-level data analyst for the Galactic Council for 8 years. To his alien co-workers, he was just another human who had seen the wisdom of joining galactic civilization. His paperwork was always perfect. He never missed deadlines. He attended every mandatory cultural sensitivity meeting without complaint. None of them knew that every piece of information that crossed his desk was carefully analyzed, memorized, and transmitted to Earth through a network of hidden relays that the Council's security forces had never discovered. Right now, as he sat at his workstation pretending to process trade statistics, Kyung-min was listening to the most important conversation of his career. This has never happened before, Supreme Counselor Veltar was saying. His voice carried the sharp clicks and whistles of his species' native language, but Kyung-min's hidden translator rendered it into perfect human speech. In 10,000 years of galactic unity, no species has simply rejected our authority. The humans are clearly insane, replied Admiral Zeska, her tentacles writhing in agitation. No rational species would choose certain destruction over peaceful integration. Kyung-min kept his face blank as he typed nonsense into his terminal. Around the room, alien analysts worked at their own stations, processing data from across the galaxy. None of them paid attention to the quiet human in the corner. Perhaps their primitive brains cannot comprehend the mathematics of the situation, suggested Counselor Rexheim. 8 billion beings against trillions. One world against 47 star systems. The outcome is obvious. Through his earpiece, Kyung-min heard something that made his blood run cold. Supreme Chancellor Ithmos, the crystal being who had delivered the ultimatum, was laughing. It was a sound like breaking glass mixed with electronic static. You still do not understand, the Chancellor said. This is not about mathematics. This is about something far more dangerous. Explain, Admiral Zeska demanded. The humans have introduced a new concept into galactic politics, the Chancellor replied. They have demonstrated that saying no is possible. If word of this spreads to other species, our entire system of control collapses. Kyung-min felt a chill run down his spine. The aliens were more afraid than he had expected. He increased the sensitivity on his recording device and prepared to transmit everything to Earth. That is why they must be destroyed quickly and completely, the Chancellor continued. Not just defeated, obliterated. Every human world must burn. Every human ship must be vaporized. The very concept of human resistance must be erased from galactic memory. The enforcement fleets are already mobilizing, Admiral Zessica reported. 2,000 ships from the core worlds, 5,000 from the outer territories. The largest fleet in galactic history. And they are ready for combat? Counselor Veltar asked. There was a long pause. When Admiral Zessica spoke again, her voice carried a note of uncertainty that Kyung-min had never heard from any council official. They are ready for enforcement actions, she said carefully. Standard intimidation protocols, blockade procedures, occupation tactics. That is not what I asked, the Chancellor said, its crystal form pulsing with dangerous light. Are they ready for war? Another pause. This one stretched so long that Kyung-min wondered if his listening device had malfunctioned. Supreme Chancellor, Admiral Zessica said finally, the enforcement fleets have not engaged in actual combat for over 7,000 years. The last real war ended when the Zephyrian resistance collapsed. Since then, all conflicts have been resolved through shows of force and diplomatic pressure. Meaning? Meaning our commanders have no experience with actual fighting. Our weapons are designed for intimidation rather than efficiency. Our ships are built to look impressive rather than survive battle damage. Kyung-min almost gasped out loud. He had suspected the aliens were militarily weak, but this was beyond his best estimates. An entire galactic civilization that had forgotten how to fight. This is unacceptable, Counselor Rexheim said. We cannot show weakness now. The humans must be crushed to demonstrate the price of defiance. Then perhaps we should examine what we know about human military capabilities, the Chancellor said coldly. Admiral Zessica activated a holographic display that Kyung-min could not see but could hear her describing. Intelligence reports indicate a primitive but aggressive military structure. They maintain standing armies on their homeworld and colonies. Their ships carry weapons designed for ship-to-ship combat rather than planetary intimidation. How many ships? Counselor Veltar asked. Approximately 400 vessels of various classes. No match for our 7,000 ship enforcement fleet. And their weapons technology? Crude but effective. Kinetic projectiles, energy beams, explosive missiles. Nothing we have not seen before. Kyung-min allowed himself a small smile. The aliens had no idea what they were really facing. Their intelligence reports were woefully incomplete. Then why do I sense fear in this chamber? The Chancellor asked. Its voice had become dangerously quiet. No one answered immediately. Finally, Counselor Rexheim spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. Because they are not afraid of us. Explain. Every species in galactic history has shown proper fear when faced with our enforcement fleets. They negotiate. They compromise. They beg for mercy. The humans laughed. Fear is logical, Admiral Zeska added. Fear keeps order. Fear maintains stability. A species without fear is unpredictable. More than unpredictable, the Chancellor said. Dangerous. A species without fear will do things that rational beings would never attempt. Kyung-min carefully adjusted his recorder as the conversation continued. This was intelligence gold, and Earth needed to hear every word. What do we know about human psychology? Counselor Veltar asked. Admiral Zeska pulled up another display. Xenopsychology reports indicate a violent and chaotic species. They have fought wars continuously throughout their recorded history. They have never achieved planetary unity through peaceful means. They fight each other? Counselor Rexheim asked with surprise. Constantly. Resource conflicts, territorial disputes, ideological differences. They have weapons capable of destroying their entire world, and they have come close to using them multiple times. They would destroy their own planet over disputes? The Chancellor asked. Not just their planet. Intelligence indicates they have fought wars in space, on their moon, on other planets in their system. They appear to view conflict as natural rather than aberrant. Kyung-min had to suppress another smile. The aliens were starting to understand what they were up against, but they still had no real comprehension of human nature. This changes the situation, Counselor Veltar said slowly. We are not dealing with a normal species that can be intimidated into submission. We are dealing with natural warriors. Warriors who are already preparing for conflict, Admiral Zeska added grimly. Long-range sensors detect increased activity in their shipyards, production facilities working at maximum capacity, military communications networks operating around the clock. They expected this, the Chancellor realized. They came to our assembly hall already knowing they would reject our ultimatum. They wanted us to threaten them. But why? Counselor Rexheim asked. Kyung-min knew the answer to that question, but he kept his expression neutral as the aliens puzzled through the logic. Because, the Chancellor said slowly, they believe they can win. The room fell silent except for the hum of electronic equipment and the distant vibration of the space station's engines. When Admiral Zeska spoke again, her voice carried a note of genuine fear. Supreme Chancellor, I must report something else. Our intelligence networks have detected unusual activity throughout the galaxy. Several species have begun private communications with their neighbors. Trade agreements are being quietly renegotiated. Some worlds have increased their defensive postures. You think word of the human defiance is spreading? Counselor Veltar asked. I think some species are wondering what would happen if they also said no. Admiral Zeska replied. Kyung-min felt a thrill of excitement. The human rejection was already having effects across the galaxy. Species that had submitted to council authority for thousands of years were beginning to question whether submission was really necessary. This threat must be eliminated immediately, the Chancellor declared. Order the enforcement fleets to proceed to human space at maximum speed. No negotiations, no warnings. Complete destruction. What if they resist effectively? Admiral Zeska asked. Then we increase the fleet size until resistance becomes impossible. And if other species begin to resist as well? The Chancellor's crystal form blazed with angry light. Then we remind the galaxy why the Council's authority is absolute. Send additional fleets to patrol the border worlds. Any sign of defiance is to be crushed immediately. Kyung-min made careful note of the fleet movements and patrol assignments. Earth would need that information to coordinate with other potentially rebellious species. How long until the enforcement fleets reach human space? Counselor Veltar asked. 6 standard days at maximum velocity, Admiral Zeska replied. Then we have 6 days to prepare the galaxy for the lesson they are about to witness, the Chancellor said. Begin propaganda broadcasts. The war room beneath Geneva was nothing like the crystal halls of Nexus Prime. Steel walls lined with screens showing star maps and fleet positions. Simple chairs around a rectangular table made of earth oak. No decorations except for flags representing every nation on the planet. Dong-Su stood at the head of the table, his weathered face calm despite the gravity of the situation. As Defense Minister of the Terran Federation, he had spent 20 years preparing for this moment. Around the table sat the military leaders who would guide humanity through the coming storm. Ladies and gentlemen, Dong-Su said, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had earned respect through decades of service, the aliens have taken our bait. General Haewon activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. Red dots marked the positions of alien enforcement fleets converging on human space. Intelligence confirms 7,000 alien vessels en route to our territory. They expect to arrive in 6 days. 7,000 against our 400, Admiral Jae-sung said with a slight smile. They must think we're completely insane. We are, Dong-Su replied. That's why we're going to win. The room filled with quiet laughter. These were not politicians or diplomats. These were soldiers who understood the difference between appearing strong and being strong. Let's review what we actually have, Haewon said, changing the display to show human fleet positions. 400 ships, but not the kind of ships the aliens expect. The display zoomed in on one of humanity's newest vessels, the destroyer, Soul's Fury. To alien eyes, it would look small and primitive compared to their massive dreadnoughts. What the aliens could not see was the revolutionary technology packed into every meter of the ship's hull. While the aliens have been building ships to impress each other, Haewon continued, we've been building ships to kill enemies. Every human vessel is designed around 3 principles: speed, firepower, and the ability to keep fighting even when badly damaged. Colonel Minho, the Federation's chief tactical analyst, stood up. The aliens don't understand human warfare doctrine because they've never experienced it. They think in terms of formations and protocols. They expect orderly battles with clear rules. What they're going to get, Admiral Jae-sung added, is chaos. Dong-Su nodded approvingly. Show them. The Mars exercises. The display changed to show recordings of human fleet exercises conducted in the asteroid belt around Mars. Even the senior officers in the room watched with satisfaction as human ships moved through the debris field like hunting wolves. Traditional, alien tactics rely on massive formations maintaining strict positioning, Minho explained. Their ships are designed to fight as a single unit, with central command coordinating every move. On the screen, human destroyers danced between asteroids, each ship operating independently while somehow maintaining perfect coordination with its teammates. Human ships fight like schools of fish, Minho continued. Each vessel makes its own decisions while contributing to the larger pattern. We can adapt instantly to changing conditions because we don't wait for orders from headquarters. What about their weapons? Asked General Yuna, head of Planetary Defense. High-1 smiled grimly. Their weapons are designed to look impressive, massive energy beams that light up the whole battlefield, perfect for intimidating primitive species. The display showed technical specifications of alien armaments. Powerful, certainly, but built more for show than efficiency. Our weapons are designed to kill ships, Heywan said simply. Kinetic penetrators that punch through armor, missiles that think for themselves, energy beams focused for maximum damage rather than maximum visibility. The real advantage, Admiral Jae-sung said, is not technological. It's psychological. They've never fought a species that refused to be intimidated. Dong-su walked to the main display and gestured at the approaching alien fleets. For 10,000 years, their tactics have been simple. Show up with overwhelming force, demand surrender, accept submission. They've never had to actually fight a war. We've never stopped fighting wars, Colonel Minho added. Every human in this room has combat experience. Every ship captain has trained for real battle conditions. Every crew member knows what it means to fight for survival. The display changed to show personnel files scrolling past. Hundreds of human officers who had earned their ranks through actual combat rather than political appointment. While alien commanders have been attending committee meetings, Dong-su said, ours have been learning to kill efficiently. Admiral Jae-sung activated another display showing the human fleet's actual disposition. The aliens think they're facing 400 ships defending fixed positions. What they're actually facing is 400 weapons platforms that can strike anywhere in their formation. The tactical display showed human ships scattered throughout the outer system, hidden among asteroids, gas giant moons, and debris fields. Not a defensive formation, but a trap waiting to spring. Phase 1, Admiral Jae-sung explained. We let them enter the system. They'll expect our main fleet to be defending Earth orbit. Instead, they'll find empty space. Phase 2, Colonel Minho continued. We hit their supply lines. Alien fleets are designed for show, not extended combat operations. Cut off their logistics and they become helpless. Phase 3, General Heywan added. We hunt them down group by group. Human ships are faster and more maneuverable. We can choose when and where to fight. Dong-su studied the faces around the table. These were the people who would lead humanity through its first interstellar war. He saw determination in their eyes, but no fear. There's something else, he said quietly. Intelligence reports that other species are watching this conflict carefully. Some are beginning to question whether council authority is really as absolute as they've been told. General Yuna looked up sharply. You think we might have allies? I think we might have fellow rebels, Dong-su corrected. Species that have been waiting for someone to prove that the council can be defied. The implications of that statement filled the room. This was not just about human independence. This was about breaking a system of control that had dominated the galaxy for millennia. That makes our success even more critical, Admiral Jae-sung said. If we lose, the council's authority becomes stronger than ever. If we win, Dong-su finished, we change the galaxy forever. Colonel Minho activated a new display showing intelligence reports from across known space. Several species have increased their defensive readiness. Some have begun secret negotiations with their neighbors. The Zephyrian colonies have gone completely silent, which historically means they're preparing for something. The council is panicking, General Heywan added. They're sending patrol fleets to border worlds to prevent any other species from getting ideas about independence. Which means they're splitting their forces, Admiral Jae-sung observed with satisfaction. Fewer ships coming at us and the aliens are becoming paranoid about their own unity. Dong-su nodded approvingly. Everything was proceeding according to the plan they had developed over decades of preparation. The aliens were reacting exactly as human psychologists had predicted. There's one more factor to consider, he said. Public opinion. The display changed to show alien news broadcasts from across the galaxy. Even with universal translation, the panic in the alien reporters' voices was clear. For the first time in galactic history, Dongsu continued, ordinary beings on thousands of worlds are seeing their leaders afraid. They're watching the council scramble to maintain control. Some are beginning to ask questions they've never asked before. Questions like what? General Yuna asked. Questions like whether galactic unity is worth the price they've been paying for it, Dongsu replied. Whether their own worlds might be better off making their own decisions. The room fell quiet as the implications sank in. They were not just fighting for human freedom. They were potentially inspiring a galactic revolution. No pressure, Admiral Jae-sung said dryly, earning chuckles from around the table. Actually, Dongsu said seriously, the pressure helps us. Humans fight better when something important is at stake. The aliens fight better when they feel safe and superior. Right now, they're feeling neither safe nor superior. Colonel Minho brought up the final display, real-time tracking of alien fleet movements. They're maintaining strict formation as they approach our territory. No scouts, no advance reconnaissance. They're coming straight at us like a sledgehammer trying to crack a nut. Perfect, General Haewon said. Let them maintain their formations. When we start picking off their supply ships and outlying vessels, they'll try to tighten up even more. Eventually, they'll be so clustered together that our weapons can hit multiple targets with each shot. Admiral Jae-sung stood up. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 6 days to complete our preparations. Every ship needs to be in position. Every crew needs to be ready for extended combat operations. Every contingency plan needs to be rehearsed until it becomes instinct. What about the home fleet? General Yun-ah asked. 100 ships will remain in the inner system, Dongsu replied. Just enough to make the aliens think they've found our main force. When they move to attack Earth, they'll discover that those ships are not there to defend a planet. They're there to lead the aliens into the asteroid belt, Colonel Minho added with a... Captain Wu Jin stood on the bridge of the destroyer Soul's Fury, watching the tactical display with the calm expression of a man who had trained his entire life for this moment. Around him, his crew worked at their stations with quiet efficiency, their faces showing no fear. Despite the odds they faced, on the main screen, 30 alien vessels approached in perfect formation. Each ship was 3 times the size of Soul's Fury, their hulls gleaming with the polished metal that galactic civilization favored. Energy readings showed massive power cores and weapon systems designed to intimidate through sheer scale. Contact from Alien Fleet Commander, reported Lieutenant Mi Kyung from the communications station. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. Put it through, Wu Jin ordered. The bridge filled with the electronic harmony of universal translators, working to convert alien speech into human language. The voice that emerged was cold and mechanical, stripped of emotion by the translation process. Attention human vessels. This is Fleet Admiral Kostek of the Galactic Council Enforcement Division. You are in violation of galactic law by refusing to submit to Council authority. Surrender immediately and prepare to be escorted to designated holding facilities. Wu Jin looked around at his crew. Ensign Bo-Ram at the medical station gave him thumbs up. Chief Engineer Dayun nodded from her position near the damage control board. Weapons Officer Ilhan cracked his knuckles and grinned. Any response, Captain? Mi Kyung asked. Wu-Jin activated the communication system. His voice would be broadcast not just to the alien fleet, but to every human ship in the system and eventually to news networks across the galaxy. This is Captain Wu Jin of the Terran Federation vessel Soul's Fury, he said clearly. We are operating in human space under the authority of the Terran Federation government. We do not recognize Galactic Council jurisdiction in this system. AD. Pause, then the alien voice returned with a sharper edge. Captain Wu Jin, you are outnumbered 6-1. Your vessels are primitive compared to Council technology. Surrender now and your crews will be treated according to galactic conventions. Wu Jin looked at the tactical display. 5 human destroyers against 30 alien dreadnoughts. By any rational calculation, The humans should surrender immediately. Fortunately, Wu Jin had never been accused of being overly rational. Fleet Admiral Kostek, he replied. I appreciate the offer, but we'll have to decline. If you want to fight, though, we're happy to oblige. This is your final warning, the alien commander responded. Surrender or be destroyed. Wu Jin smiled. At his crew. You heard the man. They want to dance. Let's dance. He closed the communication channel and activated the ship's internal address system. All hands, this is the captain. We are about to engage superior alien forces in defense of human independence. Remember your training. Trust your shipmates. And show these aliens what humans do when someone tries to tell us how to live. On the tactical display, the alien formation began to spread out into an attack pattern. 30 massive ships moving, with the ponderous grace of beings who had never faced real resistance. Reading their formation, Mi Kyung reported. Standard council intimidation pattern, they're trying to surround us. Let them, Wu Jin said. Ilhan, are weapons ready? All systems green, Captain, the weapons officer replied. Kinetic penetrators, loaded and targeted. Missiles armed and ready. Energy batteries at full charge. Da-un, engine status. Fusion reactors running at optimal efficiency, the chief engineer reported. Maneuvering thrusters responsive. We can dance all day, Captain. Wu Jin nodded and activated the fleet communication network. All ships, this is Sol's Fury. Execute Plan Wolfpack. Show them how humans hunt. On the tactical display, the 5 human ships suddenly broke formation. Instead of maintaining the orderly patterns that galactic civilization expected, they scattered like startled birds. Within seconds, they had disappeared among the asteroids and debris that littered the outer system. The alien fleet hesitated, their perfect formation wavering as their commanders tried to understand what had just happened. For 10,000 years, space battles had followed predictable patterns. Fleets met in open space, exchanged fire until one side surrendered, and the stronger force claimed victory. The humans had just thrown out 10,000 years of military tradition. Alien fleet is trying to re-establish targeting, Mi Kyung reported. They've lost track of our position. Good, Wu Jin said. Sol's Fury, execute attack run Alpha. Target their supply ship. The destroyer emerged from behind a tumbling asteroid like a shark from dark water. The alien supply vessel, positioned safely in the rear of their formation, had no time to react before human weapons tore through its hull. Kinetic penetrators, moving at significant fractions of light speed, punched through armor designed to resist. Energy weapons. Missiles with their own targeting systems found weak points in the alien ship's structure. In less than 30 seconds, the supply vessel was the expanding cloud of debris. First kill confirmed, Ilhan reported with satisfaction. Target destroyed. The alien formation erupted in chaos as commanders tried to understand how a human ship had appeared behind their lines. Their sensors showed the destroyer had somehow moved through their entire fleet without being detected. Alien fleet is repositioning, Mi Kyung observed. They're trying to close ranks. Exactly what we want them to do, Wu Jin said. The tighter they bunch up, the easier they are to hit. On the tactical display, the human ships began their deadly dance. They appeared from unexpected directions, struck fast and hard, then vanished back into the asteroid field before the aliens could respond. Each attack lasted only minutes, but each left another alien ship dead or dying. The Sol's Fury emerged from behind a gas giant's moon to find an alien cruiser trying to pursue one of her sister ships. Wu Jin's crew worked with the precision of a surgical team, their weapons finding every weak point in the enemy vessel's defenses. Their armor is designed to look impressive, Ilhan reported as he targeted another volley. But it's not designed to stop determined attack. The alien cruiser tried to return fire, its massive energy weapons lighting up space with destructive force. But the human destroyer was no longer where the aliens expected it to be. They're aiming where we were, not where we are, Mi Kyung observed with amusement. Their targeting systems can't keep up with our maneuvering. That's because they've never fought anyone who refused to stand still and die, Wu Jin replied. The cruiser, died in a cascade of explosions as human weapons found its reactor core. The Soul's fury was already accelerating away before the fireball had finished expanding. Second kill confirmed, Ilhan announced. Target eliminated. Across the battlefield, the other human ships were conducting their own hunts. The destroyer Busan's Pride had crippled 2 alien vessels by targeting their engine systems, leaving them helpless to maneuver. The Incheon's Vengeance had destroyed an alien command ship by threading missiles through its defensive screens at impossible angles. Alien Fleet Commander is broadcasting again, Mi-kyung reported. Put him through, Wu Jin ordered. Fleet Admiral Kostek's voice carried a note of panic that no amount of electronic translation could disguise. Human vessels, cease this dishonorable conduct immediately. You are not following proper combat protocols. Wu Jin laughed out loud. Combat protocols? Admiral, we're trying to kill you. There are no protocols for that. This is not how civilized beings conduct warfare. You're right, Wu Jin agreed cheerfully. This is how humans conduct warfare. Big difference. He closed the channel and turned to his crew. Daeun, how are our systems? Minor damage to hull plating from near misses, the engineer reported. No effect on combat capability. Enemy fire is powerful but poorly directed. Boram, casualties? 3 crew members with minor injuries from debris impacts, the medical officer replied. Nothing serious. Wu Jin nodded with satisfaction. 40 minutes into the battle, his fleet had destroyed or disabled 12 alien vessels while suffering minimal damage in return. The aliens were learning what happened when unstoppable force met immovable object. The immovable object won by refusing to be where the unstoppable force expected it to be. Captain, Mi-kyung said urgently. Alien fleet is attempting to withdraw. On the tactical display, the remaining alien ships were trying to regroup into a defensive formation. Their perfect formation discipline had collapsed as commanders realized that standing in orderly lines only made them easier targets. Oh no, Wu Jin said with mock concern. They can't leave yet. We're just getting started. He activated the fleet channel. All ships, this is Soul's Fury. Execute pursuit pattern Delta. Don't let them run away before we finish the conversation. The human ships accelerated out of the asteroid field like hunting wolves pursuing fleeing prey. Their smaller size and superior maneuverability allowed them to easily catch the massive alien dreadnoughts. Targeting alien flagship, Ilhan reported. Multiple weapon locks acquired. Wait, Wu Jin ordered. Hail them first. Mi-kyung opened a channel to the alien fleet commander. Fleet Admiral Kostek, this is Captain Wu Jin. Are you leaving so? Soon. We were just starting to have fun. You have violated every convention of civilized warfare, the alien commander responded. This will be reported to the Galactic Council. Please do, Wu Jin replied. Make sure you tell them. 6 months after the human ultimatum, Ambassador Taeho once again walked down the center aisle of the Great Assembly Hall on Nexus Prime. But this time, he was not walking toward judgment. He was walking toward victory. The vast chamber that had once held representatives from 47 worlds now echoed with empty spaces. 17 species had formally withdrawn from the Galactic Council. 12 others had requested separate peace treaties with humanity. The remainder sat in their curved seats like survivors of a shipwreck, clinging to the wreckage of an empire that had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. Yoon accompanied Taeho as humanity's chief negotiator, her diplomatic credentials, earned through months of careful discussions with species seeking independence from council control. Behind them walked a small escort of human marines, no longer hiding their weapons as they had during the first visit. The Supreme Chancellor still sat on its crystal throne. But the light within its crystalline form had dimmed considerably. When it spoke, the voice that had once commanded absolute obedience now carried the hollow tone of defeated authority. Ambassador Taeho, the Chancellor said, you returned to us under different circumstances. Indeed, Taeho replied, stopping, at the center of the floor, where he had once been threatened with destruction. We come not as supplicants but as equals offering terms for peaceful coexistence. Around the half-empty chamber, alien delegates shifted nervously in their seats. Many wore expressions that needed no translation: fear, uncertainty, and the growing realization that their world had changed forever. Terms? The Chancellor asked, its crystal form flickering with what might have been anger or despair. Yoon stepped forward, activating a holographic display that showed the new political reality of the galaxy. The Terran Federation proposes the following: framework for galactic relations, mutual non-interference in internal affairs, open trade routes for all species, and the immediate dissolution of the Council's enforcement mandate. You would see the galaxy return to chaos, said Councillor Veltar, his voice carrying the sharp clicks of his species' distress. 10,000 years of peace, shattered by your arrogance. 10,000 years of forced submission. Taeho corrected. There's a difference between peace and simply being too afraid to fight. In the gallery above, Ga Young monitored alien communications as she had done throughout the crisis. Her reports had documented the collapse of Council authority across the galaxy. Species that had remained silent for millennia were suddenly finding their voices. The Zephyrian colonies have declared independence, she reported through her hidden communicator. The Andromedans are demanding renegotiation of their tribute obligations. Even the Centauri trade guilds are refusing to accept Council shipping. Regulations. The Chancellor's light pulsed rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. This is temporary madness. Order will be restored. With what? Dayun asked politely. Your enforcement fleets? The last 3 expeditions against human space resulted in total defeat. Your remaining ships are needed to patrol your own borders against species who are suddenly questioning why they ever submitted to your authority. The truth of her words was visible on every alien face in the chamber. The Galactic Council's military power had been revealed as an illusion built on the unwillingness of others to resist. When someone finally called their bluff, the entire structure had collapsed. Perhaps, suggested Councillor Rexheim in a voice barely above a whisper, we should consider the human proposal. Never. The Chancellor rose from its throne, crystal, form blazing with desperate fury. The Council's authority is absolute. It has always been absolute. Has it? Taeho asked quietly. The simple question hung in the air like a challenge to reality itself. For 10,000 years, no one had dared ask whether Council authority was real or simply accepted through habit and fear. Your authority was absolute, Dayun said, because everyone believed it was absolute. When humanity demonstrated that resistance was possible, that belief shattered. You can't govern a galaxy that refuses to be governed. Around the chamber, alien delegates began to whisper among themselves. The conversations were in dozens of different languages, but the tone was universal. The sound of beings realizing that their world had fundamentally changed. What do you want from us? The Chancellor asked, its voice now hollow with defeat. Nothing, Taeho replied. That's the point. We don't want to rule you. We don't want to change you. We just want to be left alone to find our own path among the stars. And if other species choose the same path? Councillor Veltar asked. Then they should be free to choose, Daun said simply. That's what freedom means, the right to make your own decisions, even if others disagree with them. The concept seemed to physically pain some of the alien delegates. They had spent so long believing in the necessity of universal unity that the idea of voluntary cooperation seemed impossible to comprehend. The galaxy will fracture, Councillor Rexheim said. Without central authority, there will be wars, trade disputes, territorial conflicts. Probably, Taeho agreed. That's the price of freedom. But it's a price many species seem willing to pay. He gestured toward the empty seats around them. 17 civilizations have already decided that making their own mistakes is better than having their decisions made for them. In her monitoring station, Ga Young tracked the continuing dissolution of council power. Real-time reports showed the political situation changing by the hour, as more species found the courage to assert their independence. The Regelian Federation has just announced withdrawal from all council treaties, she reported. The Tau Ceti colonies are demanding self-governance. 3 more species have requested direct trade agreements with Earth. The Chancellor slumped. On its throne, the light within its crystal form growing dim. 10,000 years of civilization, ending because one species refused to see reason. 10,000 years of stagnation, ending because one species chose to grow. Tejo corrected. The galaxy is not ending, Chancellor, it's finally beginning. Dayun activated another display showing proposed trade routes and communication networks. Humanity offers partnership to any species that wants it. Voluntary cooperation between equals. No tribute, no forced compliance, no authority except what each species chooses to accept. And if species choose conflict over cooperation? Counselor Veltar asked. Then they'll have to deal with the consequences, Tejo said. Freedom includes the freedom to make bad choices, but it also means you can't blame someone else when those choices go wrong. The irony was not lost on the aliens present. They had spent millennia avoiding responsibility by accepting council authority. Now they would have to take responsibility for their own actions. We accept your terms, the Chancellor said quietly. The words seemed to surprise even the crystal being that spoke them. Around the chamber, alien delegates sat in stunned silence as they absorbed the reality of what had just happened. The Galactic Council, supreme authority in the galaxy for 10,000 years, had just surrendered to a species it had tried to destroy. Excellent, Daun said briskly. We'll need formal documentation dissolving the enforcement mandate and recognizing the independence of all species that request it. And in return? The Chancellor asked. In return, humanity will trade with any species that wants to trade. We'll share scientific knowledge with anyone interested in learning. We'll defend ourselves if attacked, but we won't attack others for the crime of being different. Tejo looked around the chamber at the faces watching him. Fear was still there, but it was mixed with something new. Curiosity about what came next. The age of forced unity is over, he announced. The age of chosen cooperation begins today. The formal ceremonies concluded and the documents were signed. The representatives of the old order departed with the weight of failure heavy on their shoulders. The galaxy they had known was ending, but perhaps something better was being born. Outside. The chamber captain Seojun waited with his crew by the human transport ship New Horizon. The exploration vessel represented humanity's next chapter, not conquest but discovery. Ready for departure, Ambassador? Seojun asked as Tai-Ho and Da-Yun approached. More than ready, Tai-Ho replied. The galaxy is open to us now. Time to see what's really out there. As the New Horizon undocked from Nexus Prime and set course for human space, Tai-Ho looked back at the massive station that had once been the center of galactic power. Soon it would be just another space station, inhabited by beings trying to figure out how to live without the authority they had depended on for so long. Think they'll manage without us telling them what to do? Daun asked with amusement. They'll have to, Tai-Ho said. That's what independence means, figuring things out for yourself. On Earth, Admiral Young-Ho stood in the same war room where humanity had planned its defiance 6 months earlier. The screens around him now showed a galaxy transformed. Trade routes opening between species that had never been allowed to communicate directly. Scientific cooperation replacing enforced standardization. The beginning of voluntary alliances, based on mutual benefit rather than shared fear. Final assessment, Admiral? Asked Defense Minister Dong-Su. Young. Ho smiled as he watched human ships spreading across the galaxy, not as conquerors, but as explorers and traders. We taught the galaxy something,